Saint Shepherd Jupiter is the warrior god of agriculture. He's the youngest looking out of all the elders, and also rather proactive considering how when Imu chose Lelusia Kingdom to test the Mother Flame, he was the one who questioned the reasoning behind choosing Lelusia. To add to this, Peter was also the one who gave the order to kill Professor Closer back when the professor was about to reveal the name of the ancient kingdom. If you're talking about the public status and overall influence of Jupiter and his fellow elders, then they're all considered the highest authority of the world government. Of course, they're still subservient to Imu, the actual king of the world. But as far as the public is concerned, they are the highest authority. They can basically do whatever they want with the world. And they also have total authority over the Seraphim, the strongest form of humanity, though their authority is second highest when it comes to Kuma-based Pacifista, because the highest authority in that case belongs to Jewelry Bunny. Moving on to actual powers and abilities, Jupiter and the other elders have some kind of psychic connection with Imu, and also with each other. They can communicate telepathically regardless of where they are in the world. This telepathy is further empowered by their ability to instantly teleport to other locations as long as a magic circle called the Abyss is present. That's how in chapter 1109, when Saturn created 4 of these magic circles on Egghead, he was able to immediately summon Jupiter and the other 3 elders from Marie-Joie, which is at the very center of the world, to Egghead, which is deep into the New World. Now, the elders aren't the only ones who have used this teleportation in the story. For example, in Elbaf, we see the God Knights using these same kind of circles, but there is a difference. You see, the ones used by the 5 elders are more like their personal magic circles because their circles are numbered. Saturn's circle is number 5, Mars' circle is number 4, Waruri's circle is number 3, Nesjuro's circle is number 2, and Jupiter's circle is number 1. Now, in addition to telepathy and teleportation, there's also something else, and it is actually what makes them so dangerous. As Luffy himself said in chapter 1111, the elders can't die. Yes, they are immortal, and Jupiter himself is the most insane example of their so-called immortality, because not only did he survive, after being decapitated by Dory and Brogy, he was able to easily reform his severed body parts. Next is the conversation about Jupiter's Devil Fruit. It's a mythical Zoan-type sandworm that lets him transform into a giant sandworm and a human sandworm hybrid at will, and from the looks of it, Peter's powers are awakened. To put this into perspective, out of everyone still alive, Luffy and the 5 elders are the only ones who have awakened mythical Zoan powers. Now, I know this may sound wrong to some of you because Lucci and Kaku are also confirmed awakened Zoan users, but their fruits aren't mythical. Of course, you can say that Yamato's transformation looks like an awakened mythical Zoan transformation, but Yamato has not been confirmed to be an awakened user. This is all important information that shows just how broken Jupiter and the other elders are. Of course, there are also strong implications that all of their powers actually come from a certain silhouette character, aka that person, but you'll have to wait until the end of the video before we go down that rabbit hole. Anyways, so Jupiter's sandworm is based on the sandworms from Dune, and his primary ability is a powerful vacuum breath that lets him suck and swallow ridiculously large objects, and even individuals as naturally as he breathes. That's how he so easily swallowed Luffy in chapter 1110. Though to be fair, it barely took any time at all until Dory and Brogy decapitated the sandworm's head and freed Luffy. Still, we have seen that the sandworm can also easily spit out whatever he sucked in, but his bite is so sturdy that he was able to even bite through the metal body of the Iron Giant. Keep in mind that the Iron Giant is a technological anomaly from the Void Century and a crewmate to the legendary Joy Boy. This means that if he chews you, it's over. Finally, the sandworm can dig through the earth and just pop out wherever like Diglett from Pokemon. This makes sense, he is based on those giant worms from Dune after all, and it's also ironic because why is a sandworm watching over agriculture as the warrior god of agriculture? Yeah, One Piece confirms the conspiracy that all of us are being ruled by demons. Anyways, next we have Haki. And although it has been heavily implied that all elders can use all 3 forms of Haki, the only form of Haki we've seen from Jupiter is observation Haki. It was shown when he sends Luffy's and Bonnie's transformations into Nika. Overall, I'd say Jupiter was by far the least impressive elder on Egghead. Saint Ethan Baron V Nurro is the warrior god of finance. He is the cold strategist archetype. When the elders appeared on Egghead and all pacifista were attacking the Marines, thanks to Bonnie's orders, Nurro immediately disabled pretty much all of them using his smooth and cool swordsmanship. And I mean that literally. He delivered super precise slashes infused with ice to make sure that the pacifista are disabled without any permanent damage. To add to this, Nurro has an eye for swords. When Zoro clashed with him in chapter 1117, he immediately noticed that one of Zoro's swords was the Sandai Kitetsu from the Kitetsu series. Zoro also simultaneously noticed that Nurro's sword is also a Kitetsu, and although the grade and generation of Nurro's sword hasn't been confirmed, it is very likely that it's the Supreme Grade Sword Shodai Kitetsu. Supreme Grade blades are the highest quality blades in the world. Only 12 of them exist, and including Shodai Kitetsu, we only know about 5 of them. The other 4 include Mihawk's Yoru, Roger's Ace, Whitebeard's Murakamugiri, and Fujitora's Yakuza Kassen. Yes, none of Zoro's swords are a supreme grade blade. Now, if you're talking about Nurro's sword feats, then he was able to split apart the Labo Phase layer of Egghead with a single air slash. That's about the same level of feat as what Mihawk did during Marineford when he easily split Aokiji's Continent of Ice with a single slash. Nurro was also able to easily block a strike from 2 of Zoro's swords with just one hand. He is a slick swordsman, and we haven't even gotten into his other abilities. Just like Jupiter, he has telepathy, teleportation, and immortality, and as for his awakened devil fruit, it's a mythical Zoan type Bakotsu that allows him to transform into a skeletal horse that's known as the Bakotsu in Japanese mythology. To put it simply, the myth is about a horse that died in a fire and came back as a ghost. Both the full beast and the human beast hybrid transformations give him insane speed, considering how he was able to paralyze so many pacifista without the Marines even noticing his presence. His legs pack enough power to knock back a giant, and much like Brook, his skeletal form gives the ability to create ice. This is interesting because both Brook and Nurro are skeletal undead individuals who excel in swordsmanship and even freezing abilities. Plus, Brook's representative animal is also a horse. Now, Nurro easily has the coolest full beast transformation out of all the elders. Basically, when he transforms, his upper human body gets covered in flames. And then the Bakotsu's head comes out and replaces his own. In terms of Haki, Nurro is only shown armament and observation Haki, but he must also have Conqueror's Haki. Saint Topman Waruri is the warrior god of justice. And although it's ironic that a celestial dragon would pretend to have anything to do with justice, Waruri also does bring it up every once in a while. Like when Imu ordered the annihilation of Lelouchia Kingdom, he was the one who brought up the fact that there's a lot of people there. And he's also the one who was kinda let down by Jinbei's resignation because it'd be a net negative for the diplomacy between humans and fishmen. But of course, he is still just another celestial dragon scum who'd do anything to enforce Imu's world order. Much like his fellow elders, he has telepathy, transportation, immortality, and an awakened mythical Zoan power. It's a mythical Zoan type Fengshi that allows him to transform into a Fengshi and a human Fengshi hybrid. A Fengshi is a boar-like entity in Chinese mythology, and in Waruri's appearance as this Fengshi, he looks like a massive 4-tusked boar demon. And when I say this dude is massive...
And you know what else is massive?
I mean he's almost bigger than a giant ship.
That's what she said!
His primary abilities are obviously his size and the power to slam his tusks or even bulldoze his way into opponents. I mean, he was able to send the Iron Giant flying into the ocean. Plus, he's almost disgustingly durable. Not even Luffy's Gum Gum Red Rock, the same Red Rock that slammed Kaido into the ground in Chapter 1000, was able to do any damage to Waruri. In fact, Luffy's attack hurt himself more than it hurt Waruri. And later, when Luffy attacked him with a Haki-imbued giant fist while using Gear 5, Luffy was still unable to hurt Waruri. All of this implies that Waruri is currently the most durable character in One Piece. The only one who has actually made him bleed is the Iron Giant. When it comes to Haki, Waruri has a ruthlessly strong Conqueror's Haki Roar. He unleashes it in the form of powerful roars in his beast form, and it was powerful enough to affect Dory, Brogy, and even Luffy's awakened body. So not only does Waruri have the most durable body, he also has one of the most powerful Conqueror's Haki shown so far in the story. Now, we have not seen him use armament Haki on screen, but just like Jupiter, he easily sends Luffy's and Bonnie's transformations into Nika, which means he does have observation Haki. Ultimately, in terms of pure abilities and strength, Waruri is by far the most impressive of the OG 5 Elders. Luffy, the man who defeated the world's strongest creature, was unable to do a single thing to Waruri. Finally, considering Waruri's status as the warrior god of justice, it's gonna be very fitting if his final opponent is Monkey D. Dragon, the world's greatest criminal. Saint Marcus Mars is the warrior god of the environment. The funny thing about Mars, one of the 5 elders in Marie Joie, is that he's always the only one standing when they're all together. Someone asked Oda about it in SBS 109 and joked that maybe it's because he forgets his homework, so the others make him stand. Oda said sure, which means it is now canon. Mars is always seen standing because he forgets to do his job. He's usually calm and chill, even when the other elders look stressed. But on Egghead, his plans to stop Vegapunk's broadcast was to just blow up the whole lab. Fortunately, York reminded him that doing that would also maybe kinda definitely destroy Punk Records. But then, when there were only a few seconds left until the broadcast, he suggested destroying the entire power plant. Luckily, the other elders rejected the idea. It's ironic because despite being the warrior god of the environment, he doesn't do his job and had no problems whatsoever with completely destroying the power plant. Moving on to his awakened mythical Zoan powers. It's based on Itsumade, it literally means until when, and it is used to describe the haunting cry of a certain bird from Japanese mythology. This bird stops near the corpses of those who died from battle or starvation and lets a cry out that states Itsumade, which, as I've already mentioned, translates to until when. Mars' transformation is a monster bird with a snake-like body and a human-like face with sharp teeth. Naturally, he can also switch between a hybrid transformation and a full beast transformation. In his full beast form, Mars was able to fly straight through the Frontier Dome's laser protection without any problems. He can also shoot a powerful energy beam from his mouth that easily destroys metal and creates flames strong enough to burn even giants. While trying to neutralize Denden Mushi, he used observation Haki to sense the ones hidden inside Punk Records and then Conqueror's Haki to knock them out. Now, Mars was the first of the 5 elders to be yeeted back to Marie Joie. In chapter 1120, Luffy took the full hit of Mars' energy beam and held him in place by puffing up his chest like a balloon. Then he asked Sanji, Frankie, and Bonnie to hit him with their strongest attacks and use the momentum from those attacks to launch Mars far into the distance. It was a Team Rocket type of moment. Later, when 3 of the other elders were also yeeted back to Marie Joie thanks to Joy Boy's Haki, we see Mars comfortably sitting on the couch, probably his first time. Saint J. Garcia Saturn was the warrior god of science and defense. He was also an actual scientist who did evil experiments on women and children. For example, he's the one who injected the essence of the Age fruit into baby Bonnie to test if she could get devil fruit powers, even though her body was way too young to digest a real devil fruit. He also conducted multiple experiments on Bonnie's mother, Ginny. We can assume that he did love his science because about 200 years ago, when Emmett, the Iron Giant, attacked Marie Joie and the scientists were ordered to dispose of it for good, Saturn acted against the world government's interests and secretly ordered them to research it instead. Ironically, his decision to not destroy the Iron Giant is also what ultimately leads to his downfall in Egghead. Anyways, moving on to esoteric abilities, let me point out that the first character to teleport using a magic circle is actually Saturn. He first used it all to pull up to Egghead from his ship in the seas of Egghead. And then when Vegapunk's broadcast was about to start in 10 minutes, he was the one who created the magic circles so that the other 4 elders could teleport directly to where he was at. Of course, we still don't know the limitations of these circles, but at least they do require some sort of setup, because otherwise Saturn wouldn't have bothered coming all the way to Egghead on a ship. The next point is about how when Joy Boy's Haki forced Nurro, Jupiter, and Waruri back to Marijawa, Saturn himself remained on Egghead. This must be because he was already physically present on Egghead to begin with. By the way, while we haven't seen anything beyond telepathy, teleportation, and immortality from the other elders, Saturn had another esoteric power that remains unexplained. Basically, he could use an invisible aura-like power that works like telekinesis without moving. When his eyes glow, he can hurt people just by looking at them. This power works on strong opponents like Jewelry Bonnie, Sanji, and Atlas, and can even brutally injure a Vice Admiral. However, Luffy was able to resist it while using Gear 5. Now, as Vegapunk implied, this ability could just be a Devil Fruit ability. And speaking of Saturn's Devil Fruit, his powers are based on Gyuki, a demonic bull spider from Japanese folklore. In his hybrid form, Saturn was massive enough to hold Bonnie in one hand. His spider-like legs were sharp enough to impale Kuma's body. As for his full beast form, Saturn grows even larger in size, and his upper back is covered by a light-colored flame. His eyes start looking rather bizarre and inhuman, and this was observed by Sanji. Kind of fitting since Sanji names his attacks after the devil. Saturn's body can excrete a very powerful poison. He can spin his body fast enough to fly, and he can spit out poisonous orbs that immediately create explosions. When it comes to Haki, just like Mars, Saturn was shown using his observation Haki to detect Denden Mushi, and then his Conqueror's Haki to knock them out. Overall, he was rather weak, especially in comparison to elders like Nurro and Waruri. Kuma punched the absolute living daylights out of him in Chapter 1104. Luffy turned him into pizza dough in Chapter 1109, and then in Chapter 1121, Bonnie and Luffy together blew a number of holes in Saturn's body before sending him flying. No wonder Imu purged him and chose someone else as his replacement. Saint Figarland Garling is the man who replaced Saturn as the new warrior god of science and defense. We don't know about his Haki or Devil Fruit abilities, but what we do know is more than enough to get a solid understanding of his strength. You see, Figarland Garling is considered the champion of God Valley. He was physically present during the God Valley incident that involved the likes of Roger, Rox, Garp, Whitebeard, as well as all of their legendary crewmates. Of course, we don't know what exactly happened on that island, but considering how Garling went on to become the supreme commander of the Holy Knights, and now one of the 5 elders, it's safe to say that he is a top tier, especially because this man is actually the biological father of Figarland Shamrock and Red Hair Shanks. That is honestly his craziest feat. Just the fact that he shares the same blood as Shanks is enough for anyone in the power scaling community to put him in the top tier. And we haven't even talked about how Imu wouldn't choose another bum to replace Saturn. Next, let's talk about how each of the elders has a celestial theme. Jupiter is based on Jupiter, Nurro on Venus, Waruri on Mercury, Mars on Mars, and well, Garling's theme is the crescent moon. This is because Garling is built like a crescent moon. Finally, we're also gonna include Imu on this list as that person who has been implied to be the source of all these esoteric abilities. When Imu purges Saturn in Chapter 1125, it happens very oddly. First, Imu somehow strips Saturn of his immortality, and then reprimands him for letting Joy Boy escape, while Saturn pathetically begs for his life. If we analyze this scene, we can see that Imu talked telepathically, and they were able to take Saturn's immortality all the way from their secret chamber in Marijawa. Plus, when it happened, the same kind of black lightning was released as when Saturn and the other elders teleported to Egghead. Now, if we add this piece of information with how when Joy Boy's haki was unleashed on Egghead, Imu felt it back in Marie Joie, we can assume that it was because Imu is connected to the elders. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense that Joy Boy's haki would reach all the way to the center of the world. So yes, while we don't know how they did it, it's clear that Imu is the source of all of these unexplainable esoteric abilities. When you think about it, if Imu can do all this, then what might be their devil fruit? To begin with, are the devil fruit powers of the elders even devil fruits? Do they also come from Imu? And in that case, what would be the mythical Zoan type power of the Garling?